Dylan Harper is quietly becoming a real problem for the NBA. The rookie who doesn't look like a rookie. Let me start with something that almost never happens. When most top draft picks show up in the NBA, they do one of two things. Either they play like every single possession is a job interview and they're terrified of getting cut, or they play recklessly aggressive trying to prove they belong. You know the Jalen Green special, forcing shots that aren't there and making reads that make coaches want to rip their hair out, like what Kuminga used to do to Stephen Kerr. Both situations actually look the same on television, and rushed, unprofessional, and not contributing to winning basketball. Dylan Harper hasn't felt like either one of those guys. That's the strange thing about watching him play. He doesn't look like a kid trying to survive his first NBA season. He looks like a guard who already understands exactly what San Antonio is building, and he's slipping into the system like he's been studying their film for 3 years.
Dylan Harper, I done already told y'all last summer that I think this kid will be the best player from the 2025 NBA draft.
For a second overall pick in his debut season, that is genuinely unusual. Most players drafted that high spend their rookie year fighting the moment. Harper looks like the moment was waiting for him. So the real question isn't whether he's been good. He has been. The question is how good he can actually become, and whether the fit in San Antonio is going to accelerate that or eventually constrain it. Who Dylan Harper actually is Dylan Harper is a 6'5" to 6'6" left-handed combo guard. Second overall pick in the 2025 draft, listed around 215 pounds, built like a guard who genuinely does not get bumped off his line when he drives, which in itself is unusual for a player his age. And yes, he is that Harper. His father is Ron Harper Sr., 5 championships, 15 NBA seasons, one of the more underappreciated players of the dynasty era. His brother is Ron Harper Jr., who had to scratch and grind his way into professional basketball without his father's name doing the heavy lifting. So Dylan walks into the league with a last name that gets you attention on day 1 and then gets you scrutinized harder on day 2, because the NBA loves a bloodline story until you have a bad week, and then suddenly everyone's talking about nepotism and whether you actually earned your spot.
Yeah, there's definitely pressure out there knowing that like your dad and your brother obviously played in this great league.
Dylan's rookie season has been a quiet, consistent rebuttal to all of that. His numbers so far, roughly 11 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists in just over 22 minutes per game, mostly coming off the bench. Look modest at first scroll, but context matters enormously here. He's not a victory cigar player logging garbage time minutes. He closes games. He's already had multiple 20-plus point performances. That tells you exactly what the coaching staff thinks of him, even if the box score doesn't scream it. The Spurs are not handing closing minutes to players out of sentimentality. This roster has real championship ambitions. The family blueprint, the Harper DNA piece, is worth spending actual time on because it's not just a feel-good backstory. It directly explains why Dylan plays the way he does at this age. Ron Harper Sr. could score early in his career, then he completely reinvented himself. He became a bigger, switchable defensive guard who did all the unglamorous winning stuff alongside Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen in Chicago, and then later alongside Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal in Los Angeles. 5 rings later, he retired as one of the smartest role players the league had ever seen. So Dylan didn't grow up in a household where the basketball conversation was about scoring titles or individual accolades. He grew up around a father whose entire career was defined by making the right play, staying on the floor in June, and being exactly what the team needed, rather than what looked impressive on a highlight reel. His mother Maria played Division I basketball and then coached. So imagine growing up where the normal dinner table conversation isn't about who's the best player in the league, it's about why didn't you get to 2 feet before the pass, or why did you open your shoulders on the drive. That environment produces a specific kind of basketball player, less random talent, more raised in the details craftsman, and that's exactly what Harper looks like every time he steps on the floor. Don Bosco Prep in New Jersey was the next chapter, but a real program with real pressure where he became a genuine star and won a state title. What stands out from that period isn't just the basketball. During the height of his recruitment hype, he was giving interviews, talking about studying for midterms, and trying to make it to school on time. That doesn't sound like a PR coached answer from an agent. That sounds like someone who grew up around professional athletes and therefore doesn't get overwhelmed by attention the way most teenagers would. 1 season at Rutgers, 19 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 48% from the field. Big Ten basketball is physical and often ugly, and he carried that team through it anyway, including a 37-point performance against Alabama that made the whole country sit up. When the Spurs took him at 2, it wasn't a gamble. It was buying the archetype they specifically needed. A big guard who can run pick and roll, handle contact, make reads, and defend up a position. They knew exactly what they were getting, why San Antonio is the perfect landing spot.
Harper trying to go baseline on himself and a spin. Lifting from Dylan Harper. More magic on the magic.
Here's something that genuinely doesn't get discussed enough when people talk about rookie development. The environment you land in matters as much as the talent you bring, maybe more. Plenty of top 5 picks in NBA history developed bad habits in their first 2 or 3 seasons, purely because they were drafted into situations that required them to do everything, create everything, and carry rosters that had no business competing. Harper landed in the exact opposite situation. The Spurs already have a 7'4" franchise anchor in Victor Wembanyama. They have De'Aaron Fox as a veteran lead guard who has proven he can run a functioning offense. They have Stephon Castle developing into a legitimate playmaker. The infrastructure was already there when Harper arrived. His job was never to be the guy on day one. His job was to fit in, learn the system, develop his strengths, and contribute in real situations without the pressure of being the entire offensive plan. That context makes the bench creator role make complete sense. He comes in as a secondary organizer, a big guard who takes pressure off the primary ball handler, someone who can keep the offense running when the main unit rests. For a player of his archetype, that is the best possible developmental situation. You're playing meaningful minutes in meaningful games, but you're not being asked to solve problems that would expose your current weaknesses at this stage of your career. And the Wembanyama factor is genuinely unfair for opposing guards trying to scheme against Harper. When you're playing with a normal big man and you get beat off the dribble, it's a layup. When you're playing with Wembanyama behind you, you can press higher, be more physical, take risks at the point of attack, because even when you lose the battle, the war is still winnable.
Just the discipline he has every day is the best thing about him. I mean, he's the most humble guy, whether that's on the court, off the court, you know.
That backline protection lets Harper be aggressive on defense in ways that most guards his age simply cannot afford to be. It's accelerating his defensive development faster than almost any other environment could. What he's actually doing on the court. Let's get into the specifics, because the broad numbers don't capture what makes Harper interesting to watch as a basketball player. He's a pace guard. He wins with timing, strength, and angles rather than pure straight line bursts. He gets downhill without looking frantic about it. The hesitation is genuine. He'll freeze a defender, get them leaning one direction, put them on his hip, and then force a decision. Help comes from one side or the help comes from the other, and he makes the right read either way. Corner kickouts when the weak side is open, pocket passes when the big commits early, skip passes when the low man is cheating, drop-offs when the rim protector steps up too aggressively. These are functional reads, not flashy plays for the highlight package. He's making the winning play, not the impressive play, and the difference between those two things is enormous at this level. The part that stands out most watching him is how rarely he speeds up when possessions get messy. A lot of young guards, the moment they see defensive help collapsing, they panic and rush. Their decision making deteriorates under pressure. Harper slows down. He lets the defense tell him what it's giving up, rather than trying to force an answer before one is available. That is a veteran quality. Watching it in a 20-year-old is genuinely strange in the best possible way. Since February, the efficiency has been something else. Stretches where he's around 12 to 13 points and nearly 5 assists per game while shooting over 55% from the floor. A 22-point, 8 of 11 shooting night that was clinical rather than lucky. Well, because when a rookie guard is that efficient on real attempts, it usually means the shot diet is smart, not just hot. He's taking the right shots in the right situations, and that's a decision-making quality that cannot be easily taught. The 3 things that still need to develop now, for the honest part, because any analysis that doesn't acknowledge what still needs work is just flattery dressed up as breakdown. The 3-point shooting is the obvious pressure point, and people are correct to keep poking at it. The percentage is still a work in progress, mid-20s so far this season, and it matters not necessarily because he needs to be a volume 3-point shooter, but because defenses need to respect the threat enough to step up on him. Right now, there are stretches where defenders are comfortable sagging off Harper because they don't fear the pull-up 3. When that happens, the lane gets crowded before he even starts the drive, and the whole thing becomes significantly harder. Once defenders have to close out on him, everything else opens up. That's the threshold he needs to cross. The scoring aggression is the second piece. Harper is smart enough that he sometimes defers when he probably shouldn't. There's a version of his game that needs to be unlocked, where he's actively looking to score within the flow rather than defaulting to playmaking, not at the expense of the smart reads, not by forcing bad shots, but by trusting himself in situations where he currently passes up looks that a more experienced player would take. That assertiveness develops with time and confidence, and the Spurs are giving him the room to find it. Defense is the third area, and this one is actually the most encouraging of the 3 concerning spots. He has the body, he has the length, he has the willingness to take contact and compete at the point of attack. He can guard point guards and he can guard wings. The upside defensively is genuinely real. And as mentioned earlier, playing with Wembanyama makes the whole thing easier to develop aggressively. He's not perfect yet, but the ceiling is high, and the work ethic seems to be there. The big picture question. Here's where things get genuinely interesting from a long-term perspective. The league is going to get annoyed with San Antonio again pretty soon. If Harper becomes a respected shooter over the next 2 seasons, you're looking at a team with a generational anchor in Wembanyama, multiple creators at the guard positions, and a system that already makes logical sense in terms of fit and spacing and decision making. That combination fully developed is fucking terrifying to try to plan against in a playoff series. But the tension is real. Harper has to take a scoring leap without losing the quality that makes him valuable right now. It's simple to say be more aggressive. Doing it while keeping the reads clean, the efficiency stable, and the team first instincts intact is genuinely difficult. It's also simple to say fix the jumper. That takes real time and real repetitions and real confidence, and defenses don't wait politely while you figure it out. The question is whether he can become a reliable 3-level threat, even without being elite from 3 specifically, while remaining the same calm and smart and steady creator he already is. If that happens, he's an all-star next to Wembanyama, the kind of pairing that anchors a franchise for a decade and wins multiple championships. If it doesn't, he's still a high-level starter who makes everyone around him better. That's not a failure outcome by any stretch, but there's a line between those 2 versions of his career, and which side he lands on is going to be determined by what happens in the next 2 to 3 seasons. What's already clear is that Dylan Harper is not just surviving his rookie year, he's developing quietly, efficiently, without any drama, the way you'd expect from someone who grew up watching Ron Harper Sr. do the unglamorous work and come home with 5 rings. The bloodline isn't a guarantee of anything, but in this case it clearly meant something. If you enjoyed watching this, drop a like and subscribe for more NBA breakdowns. We'll keep tracking Harper's development as the season finishes out and into the playoffs. See you in the next one.